Hey everyone, welcome to Thursday edition of the BAC Story. I am Jeff Graham, your host, and I'm actually one more night out in California. Had spent the week up in Lake Tahoe. Got to see some buddies. Had my 40th high school reunion, which was a lot of fun. We all compared foreheads since we don't, I think, ever saw each other's foreheads for 40 years ago. But now there's there was plenty of foreheads in the group. But it was a lot of fun seeing some friends. It was interesting because I want to get to our guest. I'm so excited about having Amanda here, but I'll bring Peggy in because she might have. Well, she'll probably just yell at me. But hey, Peggy, how you doing? But you know
Right,
what? Everyone talks about the worry about what are people going to say if I'm not drinking.
right,
And I was walking around with all these guys that knew me for a pretty inebriated state of existence,
right.
and I was with my diet, not a person. I think they were actually more excited to be seeing friends and talking memories than focusing on what I was or was not drinking. It was just
Yes.
kind of we get in our head about that, but had a great time.
I'm really glad. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to bring Amanda in. Amanda is Amanda Kuda. I am so thrilled you're here tonight.
Hi, I'm so excited to chat with y'all.
Yeah.
I've been listening to podcasts. You've got Unbottled Potential is your podcast, which the I know we want to get into your story and what's going on, but what I really liked what I was hearing was I think when we think about new life, living alcohol free, sober, whatever word you want to use, we talk about what we want to add to our life.
Mhm.
And what I got from yours was our lives are probably ready to go. We have to strip away to um, allow ourselves to go because
Mhm.
we're saddled. It's not that I need to do more, and for me, it was pulling the alcohol out of my life, but it's it's taking away and letting me shine through. I just again, it's a great listen, and
Mhm.
but it almost made it easier to understand because I think so many this um Oh, Frozen, we're still kicking and we're getting some things. I'm just gonna run with it. We
Yeah.
think of addiction as something that we have to do, and I think this was stripping it is just taking away and making it easy for us.
Mhm. Yeah. I love this quote by James Clear, and he's the author of Atomic Habits, which is the number one best-selling self-help book of the past 3 years, maybe more. And he
Yeah.
says the ultimate form of optimization is elimination. Nothing is more effective than removing the ineffective. And for most of us, not even just the people in this room today, but for most people, alcohol is probably one of the most ineffective habits that you have in your life. Yet we try not to look at it, but look at the miracles that can happen when you just remove this one completely ineffective thing from your life. You can skyrocket forward, like you said, Jeff, into all the other things you've already been doing pretty well. And it makes so much more of a difference to not have this like kind of dead weight in your life.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly how it was. It was I think I was just trying to juggle more and more balls in my life. And when I actually took some of them out of play, I could focus on what I wanted to work on. Just the ones that really mattered.
Yeah. And so often, we try to, when I was starting my journey, I was like, what else can I do? Yoga, meditation, working out, watching my food intake. And I had all these things that I was doing more of, trying to be better, not wanting to see that it could just be as simple as doing one thing less or not at all. And that
Right.
for me was the magic pill. And it completely transformed my life just to remove alcohol.
Yeah. Well, I have to
Peggy,
jump
jump
in here
in.
because I'm
Yeah,
such a
please.
fan. My sobriety date is July 12th, 2019, and I don't. It's just there's no coincidences, but some people, and I have quoted a lot from James Clear too. But you've always been I've been such an Amanda Kuda fan, really. I
Oh,
love your work. I'm always quoting you, and I love what you say on your website. Writer, speaker, coach, teacher, dog mom, coffee lover, early riser. I'm obsessed with all things woo woo, sunshine, and spending time in the country. And
mhm.
I'm an older version of you, and I'm starting to get to the woo-woo part. That's been hard for me.
What is the woo-woo? What is woo-woo?
Yeah, let her explain it.
Yeah, so that's, that is the common term for all things spiritual, metaphysical, maybe things that, at one point I considered to be a little bit out there. For me, it's just like having a grounded spiritual practice of my own understanding, having connection with an entity beyond my physical sight. But it also, I have like crystals, and where's my camera at? I have like crystals and all these other things that are, and oracle cards and other things that are metaphysical tools that some people might think are unnecessary. And those are like the woo-woo elements, like the mystical, magical things that I love to integrate in now that I have kind of this space to conceptualize it.
I do admit there is an amber stone, I guess, for like hanging in my truck that someone gave me. It's one of those, I'm not sure if I believe it, but I'm going to keep it. It doesn't hurt. I'll take everything I can get.
Exactly. Totally.
Tell me a little bit about your personal story and how you got here.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So I will cut back to this moment in, I'm going to say 2015. I know that I was 28 because I made up this like mantra for that year of 28 and feeling great. And let me tell you what, I wasn't actually feeling that great. I was heartbroken. I had just had like a really, really tremendous breakup. I was overworked and underpaid at my job, even though I really loved my job. And I felt like most of my friendships were superficial. And I was just caught in this like social hustle, this keeping up with everyone kind of rat race. But the feeling great part is on my 28th birthday, I visited this healer and massage therapist who helped me like physically just feel better. And it turned out that he became a mentor for me. And he shared a lot of insight into this metaphysical and spiritual world that was available to me that I'd never quite been shown. And something really resonated about that message. And so I started dipping my toe into the spiritual pond and following a lot of spiritual teachers and integrating a lot of spiritual practices because I wanted so badly for my life to match up to what I knew was possible, and nothing was landing. I just felt like I was kind of on a treadmill going full incline, full resistance, and getting nowhere, kind of that feeling of just like trudging along. And I wasn't even 30 yet. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? This can't be normal. Is this all there is to life? And at that same time, I started to kind of get this little nudge on my shoulder, this little kind of whisper that maybe I should look at my relationship with alcohol. And so begrudgingly, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll, look at AA and see if I need to do that. And I guess I'll do all these things. I'll take the quiz online to see if I have a problem. I mentioned it to my therapist, and the resounding answer was, no, Amanda, you are an average social drinker. Keep doing what you're doing. It's all good. And that felt really weird because I agreed that the results didn't match up, but something else still felt really strange. Like this wasn't the right answer. But, this was 7 years ago, at least, where people had begun to talk about sober curiosity really at all. And so I was left with no model that really felt like a fit for me. And not that there's anything, I support all models and all approaches, but I just kind of felt like an imposter going into an AA meeting or a recovery program because that I didn't meet the qualifications, the criteria. And it felt really disheartening because I still felt in my soul that I wasn't supposed to keep drinking, but nothing told me it was possible. Literally everything out there said, basically, you'll become a social outcast if you quit drinking. And I did a ton of internet searching and I just couldn't seem to make it make sense. So then on January 1st, 2017, I made the decision that I was just going to give it a try. I was going to do a 30-day experiment. And 30 days turned into 90 days, which turned into 6 months, which turned into a year. And somewhere within that year, I had this moment where I was in the shower and I was listening to, actually, many of you probably listened to this podcast. It's not running anymore, but Holly Whitaker and Laura McCowan used to have a podcast called Home. And I was listening to this episode and whatever was said, I heard it, but something else hit me. Something else, another message was delivered to me basically. So what I heard was directly to me, Amanda, I see you doing big things in this world, but I cannot see you doing them with alcohol in the picture. And it was in that moment that first of all, I was as people on the internet say, shook. I was just like taken to my knees. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. And that message felt so true to me. I felt it just resonate through my very being. And I knew in that moment that I didn't know what this big thing was that I was supposed to do in this lifetime, but I just knew pretty certainly that I wasn't going to be drinking alcohol again. And so I went that full year without drinking. And within that time frame, started sharing a little bit about my journey. And through that, a business developed. And through that business, opportunities to speak and share and teach and coach. And now I have a podcast, and next year a book coming, sharing this journey. And truly it was just me following my intuition to step into this path that didn't really fully make sense, but wouldn't leave me alone.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for you, the answer is probably you got the divine intervention.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, wondering what the key was or the element that was wrong, it wasn't, I wouldn't have thought it was the alcohol. It was it was something else. And I was having to drink because of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that without hitting a bottom or whatever, I would have said, oh, it's the alcohol holding me back.
Mm.
The alcohol was just something I did because of what that person or that situation or whatever was holding me back. So it's interesting because I think I would have, what do they say? The elephant in the room. I would have looked everywhere but right there sitting in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to be fair, I kind of was. I had taken on all these spiritual practices, and let me tell you, I was really good about blaming other people for my problems too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was never my fault. I didn't have the agency to have personal accountability. And because I was always, even though I was drinking pretty much only on the weekends, albeit a bit heavy, but I just didn't have the wherewithal to really make it stick, that maybe there was something I was doing that was attracting these unfulfilling relationships, that was causing me to be at a career where I didn't feel I was on the right track, or where I felt like I was always struggling and hustling. And I didn't want to look at alcohol as the thing that could be kind of the Achilles heel in the equation. But at the end of the day, when I had added enough practices and I had done enough positive things and nothing was seeming to really work like they told me it would, I had to look at, okay, well, what else could it be? And it has to be, when you do an experiment, right? And I'm no scientist by any means, but you either add a variable or you eliminate a variable. And it came down to the equation was, I think I just have to eliminate a variable. And every time I said that idea, my soul was like, yes, 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 do that. And I just had to lean into it. And it was really hard and scary, but I'm glad I did.
I think I just thought I saw alcohol as the solution for the problems. But forever, until the blinders came off and I went, wait a minute, maybe that one could be the problem.
Yeah.
Which maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe I was just hoping beyond hope that it was Peggy's fault and not alcohol, that I was, that's probably what it was. It was maybe denial, just by fear of having to give that up.
Yeah. Yeah. Glennon Doyle has a great quote, and I'm missing a word right now as I'm trying to recall it, but she says, alcohol wasn't my problem, or alcohol isn't your problem. It is your unproductive solution. And unproductive is not the right word, but basically just your irrational solution to solve your problems. And to be clear, as I reflect back, there were tons of things that I was using alcohol for. We all use alcohol for, basically one of two big things. One is as a social lubricant to cover up some sort of social anxiety or social lack we think that we have, some weirdness that we feel that we need to compensate for, or an emotional crutch. Right? We have emotional situations in our life that make us feel a certain way, and we don't like those feelings. And so to avoid the feelings, whether it's caused by a person or a situation, we drink to numb them out. And so typically any client or any person that I worked with, it's one of those two situations, but even the social option still has an emotional foundation. And so at the end of the day, we're all drinking in some way as an emotional crutch, just to numb down a feeling that we don't either want to feel or we don't know how to feel. Because even when we drink to feel happy, we're drinking really because we don't know how to fully feel happy. It's overwhelming. And so what do we do but quiet down that feeling of happiness. So it's always, to me, an emotional solution, and an unproductive. I think that's what she uses, an unproductive emotional solution.
But real quick, it worked at first is the problem. When I
Did
only
it?
had one or two, great comeback. No, you're right. But in my mind, if and I struggle with this because the person that can still come home and have one beer or one drink and just take that edge off and yet still be productive, I couldn't do that. That just meant, so I don't know. Maybe again, wishful thinking.
Yeah. So here's how I like to think about it.
It sure worked a hell of a lot better than it was working towards the end. I can promise you that.
That's true. And it's hard because there are those people who have really excellent, moderate relationships with alcohol. Yet I would say that anyone who is drinking here's the way that I look at it, the way that I like to think about it is alcohol is a preservative, right? Like there's tons of like medicinal uses for alcohol in tinctures, or even in like spices, or not spices, but like vanilla has alcohol in it, like bourbon or something, to preserve it and elongate the life of it. And so when you have an emotion, specifically a negative one, alcohol is, when you use alcohol and bring it into the picture, it doesn't get rid of that emotion. It doesn't get rid of your negative feeling. It preserves it. So when you drink alcohol because you're feeling on edge, or you have, and you want to take that edge off, you're not taking it off. You're actually just preserving it in your body and basically saving it for later. And it's going to come back to get you eventually. If it's not the next night, it'll be the next morning or whatever, but anyone who thinks it's taking off the edge, I have to argue and say it's just preserving it. It's just saving it for later.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's so interesting because when you talked about the voices you heard, Amanda, I was pretty skeptical of that. But when my daughter asked me to stop, when my daughter said, "Mom, you really need to do something about your drinking," and I'm a later drinker. I didn't have the drinking issues when I was your age. It came way later, and I think it was more work related, being a social worker and all that secondary trauma stuff that happens. But I really am a believer because that happened to me. I was down on my knees and I distinctly heard this voice that said, "Peggy, you're done and you're going to be okay." And I have been okay. Right.
Yeah.
And you're gonna laugh at, I have a friend who just was, just got certified for yoga, and I'm like, gosh, shit, I've got to go to your yoga class. But now I'm a believer. Like, I'm an elder, right? And I go to bed at night, and my hips are like, I have all this extra flexibility. I'm actually going from oh my God, am I going to be able to do this for 55 minutes to, oh my God, did 55 minutes go that fast?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful transformation. I don't care what age you are that happens. How was it for you? Because there's a lot of us older people that are talking sobriety, but how was it for you? And I know you probably hear this all the time, but how was it for you with your peers and how you were treated? Because 28 is, even if you're having blackouts, it's like, yeah, I had a blackout last night.
Yeah, it's not even questioned,
Right.
So for me, it really had to do with, I made it a decision that was non-negotiable. And so when something happens in my life and I'm kind of headstrong, so, take it with what it is. I'm strong-willed, but I'm definitely a follower of the crowd. There are so many things in my life that I've done to impress other people or to pass a past version of me. Let me say that, because I wanted to be accepted. But when I made the decision that being alcohol-free was non-negotiable, I will tell you what, I can't think of really one tangible, memorable place, except for on TikTok, which is more recent than anything. And that's just full of interesting folks. But in my real life with real people who I know, I cannot think of one tangible example of someone who has said, "Oh, just have one drink," or who has tried to talk me out of that decision. But that's because I went into it with, this is just what I'm doing now. Yeah. And I gave out the energy of, I'm a no for this thing. And no one has ever bothered me about it.
Yeah.
No one. And I don't think that's a coincidence. Maybe I look scary as hell. I don't know, but I think it's just because I went into it with the energy of this is a no for me. And yeah, people have offered me drinks. It's not like I just like metaphysically repel the offer. But when I say no, I truly can't think of an example where the worst has happened. I prepared for it. Of course, I've had like a script and things to say and share if that were to happen. But in almost over 6 years being alcohol free, I can't think of a time when someone has butted heads with me about it, which is really cool.
You know what's interesting is Peggy, real quick, like what you said when you heard Peggy, you're going to be okay. That moment when I accepted I'm done, that was a huge. I still had the work to do.
Yeah,
but that was a huge. The weight on the shoulders lifted. And it was interesting. And maybe that was the realization how many times, countless times I'm done. And, the next day, I'm done. Can I have another one? But how many times, but when I finally did, I still had the work to do, but there was a huge lift. And that's interesting. And it was a confidence. It was not the day before when I was trying to quit and telling people I'm not drinking, maybe I doubted it in my own head. But when that next time that it was done, it was okay. I was good telling people I'm done.
Yeah.
Or no more.
It's a mindset shift. And
because
that
maybe
mindset
I believed
shift,
it for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, that's the thing. You have to believe it here and here for you to project that out to other people, because people can feel when you're lying. And that's when they'll come in and say, oh, well, Jeff, you should just have one just for today. It's okay. And that's when they'll try to trick you, and trick you, whatever word you want to use. But it's because you haven't gotten solid in that decision yourself. And if it's always kind of, maybe I'll drink today, maybe, tomorrow, if it's always negotiable, then it's taking up too much headspace in your body, and it leaves it up for question for other people too. So I think that's really important to note, is that, when you get to that point where it's just a no, it in some ways becomes a no problem and frees up all this space for you to do other things, like the important work that you had to do and that I had to do and that Peggy had to do. Because let me promise you, like, unicorns didn't just start dancing around me as soon as I said, okay, I'm done drinking. I had a ton of heavy lifting still to do, but it was easier to do because I had this extra pep in my step.
Yeah, I think it's one of the reasons I fell in love with your writing, is that I feel that way too, from that voice that I heard, even though my family even was like, sure, Mom, that's going to, I knew. And I was out there 100, I drank 150% for me, and I got over 150%. I treated it like a project. And I right away, I love that. I love that, because people can tell if you've got a third door somewhere,
Yep.
And they don't get approached. I mean, every once in a while I get, I have a cousin who's an alcoholic, but, I get that. But seriously, I feel like it's a gift, because I had a lot of struggle with it before, the 10 years before I stopped. But when I heard that voice, I was completely done. I was done.
So powerful.
Had to, earn the trust of the people around me.
Amanda, let me throw the tough one at you then. What about the person that is quitting but doesn't maybe feel that light has shined down on him? I'm scared of what we're talking about, because is there someone that's going, well, wait a minute, I haven't felt that aha moment yet. So am I not there? Am I not ready? How do you respond to that?
Well, the first is that this wasn't an initial. I can't tell you, I wish I would have documented when this was, but it wasn't. I was at least 60, 90 days into my journey at that point. And I had done a lot of spiritual work to get to the point where I was at least in tune enough with my inner guidance system, which I had been completely just tuned out for the past decade. And so my intuition was really just coming back online, and everyone's intuition will come back online as you get that self-trust and you can start to communicate a little bit more with your soul. Whatever you believe about, it doesn't matter who or what you believe is this secondary entity that might be up there. It's all about your inner, it's your connection to your inner self and your truth. And I would say to anyone who hasn't experienced that yet, it's okay, because there's no timetable. Everyone is like, well, when will I have, everyone wants to know, when will my skin clear up? When will I sleep better? When will I, whatever. Yeah. Everyone is different because everyone's constitution is different. Everyone has drank at a different rate at a different time for different reasons. And I know that everyone has that voice inside of them. I know that they do. And so it's just about how frequently do you want to tune into it? And, the other thing I want to say, though, is that there's never going to be a convenient time or a good time. There's never guaranteed a time when you're going to hear the golden sound in your head to quit drinking. But if you've heard that, if you've had the nudge, if you had the little whisper, coming into your mind of, hey, this might be something you want to look at, it's there for a reason. That is part of your inner voice, and it does not whisper to you at random. It doesn't just, say random things to you. That voice is important. And anytime you hear some voice telling you to do something for your greater good, like quitting drinking, that voice will not quit. It will persist until you listen to it. And if you do not listen, at some point it will become a very loud roar. So sometimes the golden moment isn't that you hear a strange little voice while you're in the shower. It's that you get punched in the gut and you're knocked to your knees for a second. The voice will be as kind as possible until you don't listen, and then it will come in loud and clear. And so maybe you heard the voice in a different way, and it just didn't sound as pleasant. It felt more like a rock bottom or a dark night of the soul. It comes to you in different ways. But if you've even heard the nudge towards living an alcohol-free or a sober lifestyle, that's that voice trying to get your attention in one way or the other. That's what I think.
And it goes together, right? Because then the brain science, I'm more of the brain science geek because I am a social worker, and really once you know that stuff, you can't unknow it, right? And if your brain heals, there's much more opportunity for that voice to come in. Right?
Yeah, Peggy, you know this story, but when we were out at an event where there was a band or a singer with the family, and it was drinks everywhere, and I was drinking my Diet Pepsi, but I realized I was laughing and I was having as much fun as I believed I had when I was drinking. Before it was always, I'm having fun, asterisk, but I'm not drinking. And that was the first night that I just said, I'm having a blast. And I realized, wow, there's no asterisk tonight. I'm at what I didn't think would ever be possible without alcohol. And I didn't even realize or even think about it. And that was a night when I went, wow, this is even better. I thought it was going to be life without alcohol. And it was just, it's life. Nothing else. And that was a huge moment.
It's such a special experience to have that, huh, Jeff? Like where you're like, whoa, it's happening. That thing that I thought wasn't even possible, it actually is just how we're supposed to be normally. This is how I get to be. And I've opened up the space for that to come through, and it feels kind of miraculous and special. And that's so cool that you remember that moment viscerally, like when it hit.
Yeah, even this week I was up in Tahoe with a buddy riding around. We rented bikes and cruised all around the lake, and I almost felt goofy because I was so giddy that I was having so much fun. It was fun that I never thought was ever going to be possible again in my life, let alone without alcohol. And I couldn't. I was like a little kid that just got out for summer break.
Yep.
And I thought you got to wipe this smile off your face, Jeff. People are going to look at you and like Peggy looks at me all the time and with disgust and just disdain. But no, it wasn't. I thought this is just, I never would have believed possible.
Yeah. It's that feeling of like childlike euphoria. Yes. And none of us needed alcohol as a kid to have fun. But at some point we learned a dirty lesson that all of the things we enjoyed in childhood, we had to put them away because they were immature or they weren't productive or it was time to grow up. And what BS? Like, guess what? If you like to ride a bike and have the wind blow through your hair, that's cool as shit. That is amazing. And so I think so much more freeing and exhilarating than going out to a bar and
Yep.
dancing on the tables or singing karaoke or shooting the shit with your friends. Like that is true freedom and fun and just bliss. I love that.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about, I'd like to know about your coaching, you know, who's your client, and a little bit about your podcast, and maybe end with, I'm really excited that I found out, you know, from Susie that you were writing a book and that it's almost out. So can you
so
talk
close.
about
Yeah. So I work specifically in my programs and my one-on-one coaching, typically with high achieving, intuitive, spiritually inclined women who want to live an alcohol-free life. And or also are already living alcohol-free and really just want to stretch into that next level of their development and their spiritual connection. And so I have courses and programs. Right now I'm running a really fun 5-day series called Awakened Without Alcohol. And it's all about really stepping into this more awakened version of yourself, stepping into this spiritual place. And I really love doing that work. I rarely take on male clients, which is why I'm so excited to meet you, Jeff, because I know that you have really carved out a space to serve the male population. And that has been something that people came to me for a long time. And it's just not a big part of my practice. So it's great to meet people who have more of an edge on that area. So I specifically work with females, and I do have also a podcast called Unbottled Potential that releases every Tuesday. And then my book with the same name, Unbottled Potential, will be out. It seems so long. It's such a long runway in traditional publishing. It won't be out until October 2023. We're like right at a year. But don't worry, everyone will not get me to shut up about it whenever it is available to purchase. So if you are following me, or I see you on the street, or you serve me a coffee, you will know about it as soon as it's available.
Well, your writing is stunning. It really,
thank
it
you.
really, really is.
Thank you.
It's
well,
so
the podcast is so good. It's really, it's fantastic.
So fun. I hesitated forever to do it, and it's such a fun way to express and share all of these things that I've learned over the past 7 years. So thank you for listening and reading. I appreciate it. That means a lot to me.
In a single sentence, go ahead, Jen.
Go ahead, Peggy.
In a single sentence, what would your message be? Kind of your bumper sticker.
Let's see. I think that if I were to put it into a single sentence, and of course, like all the marketing people say you should just know this, but I want to speak to something like this just from the soul to whoever is listening right now, is that you have infinitely more potential in you than you even know to be possible. Even the biggest dreams that you have right now are small in comparison to what you can truly achieve. And I know in my heart of hearts that you can achieve more, even more than that, even more than the biggest dream that you can dream, if you choose to remove alcohol from the equation and step in and do the work that, you know, Jeff and Peggy, it sounds like you talk about all the time. It just will create a life beyond your wildest dreams. And that's my passion, to help people unbottle their potential and awaken to that in their lives. And yeah, it's such an honor to be able to share with your community today and just anyone who will listen in general, because I know that it's a really big, important message that people are starting to become more turned onto.
You know, and I've been, it's not my phrase, but you know, you can always go back, and you can always go back to the lifestyle you're living, but it's almost like I can't tell you what you're going to get, because what people told me, they told me what their life was without alcohol. Yeah. And it was when I found what mine was, and it was great, because it wasn't that person's or that I was going to live that. It was just, I had no idea how dulled down and accepting mediocrity, alcohol, what that did to me. It's almost like alcohol only survives if it can keep me, or it survives well if it can keep me, you know, sedated, you know, like I don't know, just whatever, tied down. So you can always go back, but to explore that and just see what's out there. And it's not a life sentence. You can always go back, but give it a shot, and it's so worth it.
Drinking alcohol is a life sentence.
Mhm.
Yeah.
my humble opinion. And
Yeah.
so
100%.
yeah.
100%.
I'm so looking forward. I know Jeff is too, and a million other people, that we get to see you in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
For our third Sober in the City. What a beautiful place to have Sober in the City. And if people are out there wanting to know about that, that's, you can, Jeff will put in the link, but I think we plan on going, West Coast and maybe East Coast next year, but we're so excited. Amanda's going to be one of the featured speakers at Sober in the City, really showing people that we just drink differently. So, yeah, thank you so much, Amanda. You are
thank you.
everything that I thought you'd be. So
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
And
yes,
Jeff,
it was great. And you talk slower than on your very first opening podcast. I think you had your speed at 1.5, and I thought, wow, she talks as fast as I do. And then I realized it was to get the thing. But no, again, that podcast is just it's fresh compared to a lot of what's out there. Yeah,
Thank you.
It's really worth a listen.
Yeah, well, I think I do talk at 1.5 speed sometimes too.
Well, it got me even dreaming about what more, because I'm tasting success with this. And you get it, it's like, well, what else is there? What else is there? And that's what I really got out of the podcast, is that it made me realize, wait, there's a whole world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I can
so
finally,
many
for
more
the
things.
first time in so long, finally start to chase it. So, well, look, stay on for just a second here. We have lovely parting gifts for you.
Parting words. Jeff is goofy and giddy. And Amber Kano said, "This was amazing. I'm going to go listen to your podcast right now." So
thank you.
So
thank you so much.
Well, hang in there, and thanks, Peggy. As always, you're the best, even though it's a one-way street, but that's okay. And Amanda, thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much.
We'll talk to you all next week. And I'll be on a plane, cramped, doing this tomorrow for the next 12-hour day. That'll be fun.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. All right, we'll talk to y'all soon. Take care.